everyone, welcome back. So we got a fantastic episode here for you today. Matt Orlic and I actually went through so many different things in terms of strategies that he's been able to use to help build his company, Qure Skincare, to over $50 million annual run rate at the moment, including the specific creative strategies that he's been able to use to help them to generate over $1 million in sales in a single day. This guy's extremely cued in terms of all things around mindset, entrepreneurship, how to actually like scale and lead companies and teams inside of companies. You're going to get so much value from this episode. Tune in and please enjoy. Matt, what's up? Thanks for being here.
Buddy. Pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about who Matt is, your background, a little bit of who you are. That'd be great.
Yeah, cool. So I started business at the age of 17. And since then I've developed about 25 different businesses and brands over the last 20 years. I think it's in 4 verticals, 8 categories. And most recently, it's probably my biggest success story to date. I launched a brand with my sister called Qure Skincare, and we did $1 million in a day, and so it was in our 3rd year of operation. So that was pretty cool.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Were you always entrepreneurial? Because that's a pretty big claim. You know, that many businesses in that amount of time. Were you always entrepreneurial as a kid, like coming up?
Yeah, I think I was always, when I reverse engineer and try and find a hypothesis as to why, I think I was just left to fend for myself a lot.
Right.
And I remember vividly one story where my parents didn't want to give me some money to buy a certain toy that I wanted.
Yeah.
But they gave me $5 for a drink. Or it was $10, whatever, it was $5. And I went to the convenience store and actually bought pens for $5. It was 10 pack of pens. And I went and sold the pens door to door at like $2 or $3. And I said it was for charity unethically. Made the money and then went and bought the toy. So I think I always had it in me because, I must have just had been put in a space where I had to fend for myself and be creative. And there was other scenarios where, you know, if I was thirsty, I'd go to Macca's and get a free water because they had free waters.
Right.
So I think there was something inside of me. Yeah, I was resourceful. That's it. Yeah.
Do you think that like most entrepreneurs need to, or because it's just like we were speaking about earlier, it's like some people either come from that background where they're just like born entrepreneurs, you know what I mean, coming out of the womb and they're selling something to somebody. Yeah. And then there's like other people, like I was saying in terms of myself, my story is like I come out and I'm like straight into a job, university, the same thing. So like, what's your experience with people who, for example, have born entrepreneurs? Do you think they're better maybe, or what? Yeah, what's your perspective on that?
I think the best entrepreneur is the one that just have the most ambition, to be honest.
Interesting.
The most ambition and most drive. Now that comes sometimes from toxic sources, sometimes from positive sources. More often than not, it comes from a lack in their life, trying to create something. And I think they're the best entrepreneurs because they're just so hungry and they just don't stop. And that normally is driven from a place of lack or place of insecurity or a place where something's missing and they're trying to fill that void, I guess.
Interesting. What do you think was driving you when you were first coming up?
I think I saw how money controlled my dad's life.
Right.
And how much I had a hold on him, how he'd show up for us, how he would negatively react in certain situations. And he was like the perfect reverse role model for me.
It's like what not to do.
Yeah. And all due respect, you know, God love him. But I saw everything in him that I didn't want to do.
Interesting.
And that's where I'm
he just worked a job? Or
Yeah, he worked a job 9 to 5. And I saw how stressed out he was, how much he had to travel and how much he's count every dollar. Like I remember him telling me that when I used to drive his car, he's like, Matt, you know how much it cost me? I'm like, oh, what, the $20 petrol? He's like, no, it cost me 10 cents per wear and tear per kilometer that you drive the car. Wow. And I was like, wow, fuck this. Like, I don't want to ever say that to my kid. I don't want to even think like that. I couldn't imagine what else is playing on his mind if he's worrying about the wear and tear of the car. So that's where I was like, I don't want to live that life. I want to, when I have a family, I wanted to, and that's why I did this all. Just so when I have a family, that I can be free, I can give them everything, not give them everything I want, but I don't have to be operating at that headspace, you know what I mean, that he was consistently, and I could be free and just enjoy my family and not have to worry about everything that he did.
Yeah,
so
wow.
That's what drove me,
Yeah, wow, interesting. So cool. Very similar with myself. I feel like it's a constant want to prove my dad that I can be successful.
Yeah, okay.
Because I didn't get the love from my dad.
Oh, really? Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like similar situation. How did you take that outlet and push it in towards like creating something in terms of like being like, I'm going to go sell a product or I'm going to go and exchange some value? Like how was that the direction that you chose?
Well, so we all absorb a money blueprint from our parents normally, or from our environment. And my dad's money blueprint was, work 9 to 5, pay the mortgage off for 30 years. And I was fortunate enough that when I was age 17, I was working for a business coaching firm called Action Coach. I don't know if you heard of them.
I do know them, yeah. Actually, yeah.
So I was doing lead generation for them at the age of 17. So I was speaking to like 100 businesses a day. And
like as it sales on the phone?
Yeah, pretty much on the phone. And that gave me a lens into business and what business is doing well, what weren't doing well. And then actually at the age 17 as well, 6 months after, I went and started my own lead generation company doing the same thing.
So kind of like emulated some of the
Emulated
things.
exactly what they did. I thought I could do better than whatever they did.
Right.
Better service, more intricate service. Sure. So I went and started my own business doing lead generation. And I did that with a mentor of mine
Got it.
And I was telling everyone that I would make $200,000 a year working 3 days a week. And it's a very strange goal to have, right? It's like $1 million, whatever.
Yeah.
And when I look back, it's because my mentor, that was his reality.
Right.
And I got that
As in
from
he was
him.
making 200,000.
Yeah, a year working 3 days a week. So I'm like, oh, I
Right.
saw he could do it. And he was like mentoring me. And that's what became my money blueprint.
Got it.
And that's why it's important. Like a lot of people are just one money blueprint away from success. It's just a
Yeah.
belief what they could do. And it's the right environment that might change that belief for them.
And so this money blueprint's kind of like, is it just observationally? Like I might look at someone else and be like, oh, got it.
Yeah.
That's true. That could be true.
Could be true for me. That's right.
Right,
And then it's just your different outlook or different belief on the world, what possibly could be true. And until people can see it, it's very hard for them to absorb that money blueprint. That's why everyone picks it up normally from their parents, because that's what's closest to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And how would you, like, say, for example, like, how would I know that I've got a really bad money blueprint myself?
I think you just have to be introspective in terms of what are my beliefs around money.
Yeah.
Is it easy to make money? Is it hard to make money? Am I smart enough to make money? You know, am I good enough to make money? Or am I not good enough to make money? Can I make $1 million a year? If not, like, why can't I? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And there's normally like 3 different ways that you can actually dissect this. First is like, well, how do I know this is true? Literally. Like, where in my life is it true? Is there evidence that I can't make $1 million or whatever the belief is?
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, oh, I don't think I can be rich.
Yeah. It's like, okay, where is that true?
Right,
Like,
got
can
it.
you not make money? Like, have you not made money before? Like, you can't learn certain skills. Like, show me exactly the tangible evidence. Then the second part is like, when did I believe this to be true? Because a lot of time it's a moment in time, it's an experience that creates that belief in us, right? And then the third part is that what needs to happen so then I can believe that it will be true. So often it's like, oh, if I can make 10K a month, does that mean that I can make 100K a month? You know what I mean? Like, what can I do in order to make sure that now I can believe that can be true? And I'll give you like a prime example also. There's 2 different beliefs. There's competing beliefs and then there's limiting beliefs.
Got it.
Limiting beliefs are internal about yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, everything else. And competing belief is about the thing in question. So for example, a competing belief is, I had one around money. I had thought that if I was ultra wealthy, that I'd be depressed.
Something else would happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a consequence of
having the thing, right?
Right.
So it's like, I want to be rich, but then I have a competing belief that if I am rich, I'm going to be depressed.
Got it.
And a lot of people start self-sabotaging, like I did.
Got it.
For a lot of my life, because when I did that framework, I narrowed it down to one experience I had in Mykonos where I met a billionaire and I was speaking to him and he's like, yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I play, guitar on the beach and smoke, whatever. I'm like, so what happened? He's like, well,
So he wasn't very happy.
I guess I made $1 billion. I bought a yacht for $100 million. I parked it in Monaco. I looked to the right and it was a yacht that was bigger than mine.
Right.
And I was immediately depressed. I said, fuck this. I'm selling everything. I'm not playing this game anymore.
Wow.
And then I subconsciously took that on, that I was going to be the same as him moving forward. And so I started self-sabotaging myself a lot throughout my business life because I thought that if I was ultra wealthy, that I would live his life. And that was happening undercover without me even noticing.
Right, I see.
So I think it's important for everyone to try and understand what their internal belief systems are, how they're operating. Because are you familiar with like the reality creation framework?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so like we absorb information from the outside world during our with our 5 senses.
Right.
And then our consciousness interprets that information. Then we create beliefs. And then from those beliefs, we have conviction, which are our actions and thoughts. And then that's our results.
Got it.
So everything's how we interpret information.
Sure.
And everything's about our belief systems that actually
It's
dictate
like almost
our
like the
whole life.
beliefs, like almost like a filter.
Yeah,
Takes
filter.
information in and it's like filtering it.
Yeah,
And,
and then you create a
determine-
belief, and now from that belief you derive actions and how you show up in the world, and you have a result.
Got it.
So a lot of information that we have, we're perceiving it, and in our consciousness in a way that's not in alignment with the person we want to be, or the
Right,
beliefs
that's
we
what you
want.
mean, that's
And
what
this
you
is the
mean.
biggest problem, right? And that's why I think a lot of business owners don't even start, right? They don't get off the ground because they have certain belief systems that are holding them back. And that's why it's important to try and uncover those things, you know what I mean, before you actually move forward, because otherwise you're going to keep sabotaging yourself moving. Yeah.
So do you think it's like if say for example I've got some negative beliefs and I probably had some horrible beliefs when I was starting, and probably still do, would you say it would be best for me to, like, for example, like solve those and like be like, all right, I'm just going to go on introspection and see if I can, rewire these beliefs and change some of the ways that I think, or would you say like just start, and then like as you're starting, for example, the business, and you come into contact with some of the issues and challenges, then start like looking into these things?
I would look at the beliefs first, because if you sort the beliefs out first, it'd be highly probable that the thing you'll start will be completely different to the thing you would have started. Because if you start from a place of scarcity or lack of belief, then the decision you're going to make in terms of what business you want to start will be determined based on that belief. You know what I mean? You don't think big enough if you don't believe you can.
Yeah, you make a lot of small decisions.
That's right.
You make them out of fear, and you're worried about like what people think. You'll be very, very much in lack.
Exactly right. And you know what? Like a little hack for everyone: go ChatGPT, and run this prompt with them. You know what I mean? Can you help me diagnose my limiting beliefs? Can you help me diagnose my negative beliefs? And we'll start asking you these questions. And just keep feeding information to Chat, and it can almost be like a personal psychologist. I'm telling you. Yeah, because I had this whole.
So don't listen to Matt. Just go to ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. I had this whole process, and I was working with like some people I was coaching through it, and like literally within like one call, like literally changed their lives. Like he was like, yeah, I realized I was doing this because my dad, where business went bankrupt, and that's why he was self-sabotaging. So he didn't want to grow his business. So he'd be like, all this stuff happened. He's like, and I was just on, he's telling me, I was just on speaking to Chat for hours. I'm like, oh my God, it's brilliant. You know what I mean? So he like self-diagnosed himself.
Save tens of thousands of dollars in coaching.
Yeah.
What are some of the beliefs that you've maybe engineered into yourself that you didn't have before that serve you and help you to kind of like have the businesses and the business success that you have today?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, so we have beliefs around everything, how we run our team. And I think one major one for me recently was like, my belief on how I should lead my team. So first I would like hire people and I'd tell them what to do, right? Sure. That's like transactional leadership.
Got it.
And now then I was like, no, it should be more transformational leadership, which is where I give them an outcome, right? And then we measure that outcome and then I coach them.
Right. I see.
So
you're like setting like the desired expectation, goal.
Yep.
And then how you get there is like, let's work on it together.
Let's work together. And I'm coaching them, but it's their role to do. And I'm just coaching them. So essentially I work for them. They don't work for me. And so my job is when I bring people on board, it's like, what are your goals personally, your 3-5 year goals? And I'm just giving you the container on how you can achieve your goals. And I'm giving you the support and the resources. So technically, you don't work for me, I work for you.
It's almost like a bottom-up approach as opposed to top-down. You're not like sitting there at the ivory tower telling everyone what to do. It's like, I'm going to support you to help us to get to where we want to go.
Exactly. And then the whole thing I'm thinking about, like, how can I better support everyone else achieve their goals internally? Right. So now I have like leadership meetings every week. You know, I'm trying to give them more resources. I'm trying to make them better people, whether it's nutrition, mindset, whatever it might be. Right. I just literally...
So you cover it like across all of those spectrums, like your whole team. You might be like, you know, we might focus on mindset. We might focus on nutrition. Yeah. Just building better people.
Yeah. Like really. In my office, I'm like, this is like a running joke where people go to the toilet and eat chocolate. Because if I see him, I lose my shit. Because
you hear that, guys? Yeah. I'm doing that.
But it does, because it impacts, you know, it impacts the way you show up. It impacts the way you think. It impacts everything. Like, so that's probably one of the biggest shifts for me mentally was like, I work for these people. How can I be better to support the people within my company to help them grow?
So cool.
And that changed a lot for me, you know what I mean? Because
what was the stimulus that led to that? Like, how did you go from being like the grand dictator? Maybe you weren't. I was. I still am, maybe. And how did you go from that to being like the coach and the supporter? What was the shift?
In terms of like
you obviously like transition your leadership style. Yeah. How did you change that belief, or how did you go from like that version of leadership to this version of leadership?
I mean, for me, it was just implementing the systems in place. Like, it was no more micromanaging. It was no more like me telling them what to do or solving people's problems. It was just me giving people an outcome and allowing them to be completely autonomous in terms of solving that outcome, and me just acting as a coach. Like, my calendar's open for people to talk to in order for me to help them. That's it. Like, when we get on the call, I'm a resource for you to help you achieve your outcome. So don't book a call if you've got nothing to speak about. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not for me to know.
Right, that's what you mean. It's not going to hang out and catch up and talk about the weekend.
That's right. It's like, you know what I mean? Use me as a resource. I'm here to help you solve any puzzles you have in the business. And that's how it started, really. And then also just telling them I'm going to invest in them, telling them and then showing them actually doing leadership training every single week, and you know, dedicating my time. And then it's just a beautiful thing happens when they start using language like theory of constraints. So this is my constraint. I'm trying to solve this, and they start taking all these learnings, implementing it. Because ultimately, for me, it was so frustrating. And I started hating business because I feel like everyone's so reliant on me, and I'm sure you felt that same thing, right? And like I started hating business.
You resent the people, you resent the company.
And then I started like having the same conversations over and over again. It was just so boring. I'm like, you know what? If I could scale me, that'd be so much easier. And how can you scale you? By just teaching everyone. Yeah. And I think, you know, we teach people, we train dogs. Yeah. I mean, so that's why it's more when it's teaching, not training. And allowing everyone to be self-independent and trying to actually add value to the business rather than, you know. And I think in a world of AI, it's more important than ever, right?
I agree completely. It's interesting you saying this. So I went to Mastermind last year with Patrick Bet-David, and he said a very similar thing in the sense where he mentioned, like, he was explaining, like, so, you know, you might have like levels of clarity about certain things, and he's like, as a founder and as a CEO, like, that's one of the most important things, how clear you are with the outcome, where you're getting to. And then you can obviously share that amongst your team. If you're like a, 6 out of 10, your senior leadership team might be a 4, and then the actual people in the trenches are going to be like a 2.
Yeah.
Right. You'll progressively lose clarity. And then equally what he said was also, so like, as you, for example, may have an issue where you're low clarity in a certain area, he's like, so how would you develop more clarity and go from a 4 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10? And he's like, you reach up to the people that are ahead of you, right? The leaders in the organization, or your team leaders, whoever is ahead of where you want to get to, and be like, how can I solve this problem? And it's exactly what you're saying. It's like your team are like, hey, Matt, I've got this situation. And all you're doing is like shaping their mindset to look through your lens of reality. And all of a sudden their outcomes shift tremendously. Yeah. Very, very, very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Because you want to teach them principles. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to teach everyone, is the principles of how to look through things and how to look at the world and look at their puzzles and try and solve for themselves. And especially with AI, like I had a whole training module on how to implement AI into all the departments. You know what I mean? And I gave them like a 5-step process and they should follow. Got it. And I explained to them, like, if you don't have the ability to solve puzzles in the business and add value incremental ways, you guys won't have a job. Like, it is what it is. Like, but if you develop that skill, you'll be worth more than you are now.
So true. Yeah, so true. What was the like how's your involvement from like starting Qure up until now? Like, are you progressively like more and more in the business, or like have you wound back your involvement in terms of how active you are in the company?
Yeah, I think I've definitely, at the first year or so, I wasn't really active at all. So mainly just my sister. Okay, she was just hustling hard. I said,
maybe I need to be talking to her.
Yeah, probably. I literally said to her, she was asking me this question. I'm like, figure it out yourself. I'm not helping you. Wow. You wanted this business. It's up to you to get it.
How did you decide on the product? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I learned a lesson that I need to create authentic money versus inauthentic money. Yes. I think I spoke about it offline. So I had this like midlife crisis or quarter life crisis, 29. Sure. And a psychologist was like, yeah, all the money you made in your life was like, didn't mean anything to you. So of course you're in this stage where if you make another million, it means nothing to you. Got it. So like, yeah, fuck, that's so true. So I'm like, Christina always wanted to start her own business. And I said, we're going to find you something that's super authentic to you that you're going to love. And she always obsessed with skincare. Right. And I was living in Croatia. She was in Australia. And she sent me like post-it notes on skincare. Use this at night, use this in the morning. And
so she was like researching products, or she
was
just like,
for me personally.
She was just trying to fix your skin.
Yeah, fix my skin.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Great sister.
Yeah. She was amazing. And then she got to Croatia. My skin was looking better. She's like, oh, so the product's working. I'm like, I didn't use any of that shit. Being a guy, I didn't stick to any of that.
Of course.
But what I was using was this massive LED panel that I bought from China.
Right.
And I'm like, this is what I'm using. And then she's like, oh my God, I want one. And I was like, yeah, well, it costs $5,000. And then her heart sunk. And then in that moment, like, you know what? Maybe there's something here. Yeah. Because like beauty, and this is like the DNA of the company is built on, beauty should be a right, not a luxury. Right. And we didn't want socioeconomic barriers of clinics, stuff like that, allow people not to feel confident with their own skin. Sure. So we're like, maybe we can make something from this. Let's start off the face. And at the time, I honestly thought that I was the genius, and no one thought about doing the the face mask. Then went on Google, it was like 15 brands. Like, oh, fuck's sake. But I believe in the technology. I've been using it. I believe it's a trending market. And I had a lot of product development experience building a lot of brands in the past. So we'll go, let's make the best mask in the world that we can. Right. So she went to town and we hired a product development company, and we spent 2 years developing the mask. Wow. It's like the world's first customizable mask, because she had issues like acne on her jaw, but then she had wanted to anti-aging on the face. So we made an app where she would customize it and stuff like that. It's
very good. Now, I think Christina sent one to my wife. Yeah, and I was like, this is world class.
Yeah,
like,
the build's fantastic. Yeah. It's a great product. She did a great job. And then that's where that business was formed. So, but the first year was more like her, go work it out yourself. I'm not going to help you. Wow. To a degree. And she hustled extremely hard, worked a lot of stuff out herself.
So cool.
Yeah. And then it got to stage, doing a couple mil. I'm like, all right, I'll get involved now. It's doing well. So now you've proven that out.
When the hard work's done.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I'll spend my time in it. And then I became more involved in marketing. So I was more like offense and she was defense.
Right. Got it.
And at the moment, once I hired this head of growth role, I'll be pretty much almost out of the business from a day to day. But even now, like I don't spend many hours in the business because the team is doing a lot of the great work.
Sensational.
Yeah.
And like, say, for example, if you were to look at the blueprint of Qure Skincare, like, and then you were to say, like, you know, maybe to a new founder or something, you would maybe like break that down into a few key steps. Like, what would be some of the key things that you think happened through that company? And you probably have a good, interesting perspective because you weren't actively in the trenches every single day. So, like, looking at what happened, like, were there a series of like key things? Like, the product seems like one that happened that really led the company to scale.
There's 4 key things.
Yeah.
Right. Product leverage, right? Having a unique product because there's a flywheel attached to that where we're going to get the best influencers because they have the best product. Our marketing is different because they have a differentiated product, etc. Then we have operating leverage. The office is built in Croatia, so we had low overheads in terms of our OPEX. Audience leverage. We had influencers that have shares in the brand as equity. Right. Some of them. And then the 4th one is margin leverage. Right. So those are the 4 key leverage points. And
so can you break them down a little bit just so I understand all, because that's very interesting.
So margin, I think you have to have at least 70%. Yeah. Today. Got it. Shoot for 80.
Yeah, agreed.
So operating is just like the people that we hire, they're more economical in countries like Croatia. So my overheads are a lot less.
It's like, I think Ty Lopez calls it like location arbitrage.
Pretty much. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly what that
understood.
is. Yeah. What else? And then audience leverage is like, if I was starting out and I had a great product, I would give equity to a massive influencer to create a negative CAC scenario. Interesting. Where I'll be able to acquire customers at, no acquisition costs. Of course. And which would fuel the business to give it enough profit at the start where it's critical to then invest back into product development and marketing and everything else. Got it. So, and product leverage is just essentially having a great product that's better than everyone else's, ideally, or a differentiator. So then you can have better influences, better marketing, better everything else. So if those 4 leverage points are ticked off, I'd be very confident that you're going to do very well.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
And is this model something you've developed as well in terms of like these four quadrants?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've developed. I'm sure other people have thought about it. But those are the 4. And then not just that, like, and then if you're going to pick there's another framework that I kind of use if I was going to start another brand. Right. Like, first of all, the AOV also has to be over $100. As you know, you want to have something that people use every day, ideally. So you have an LTV play. You also want it to solve a problem, which makes it easy to market. You want it to be large enough so then dropshippers can't come in, but with Trump, maybe that's stopped anyway. You're large enough so you have to localize warehouses, another barrier of entry for cheap people, which we have. And you want a trending market of at least 5-10% year on year in terms of the product category or the technology, whatever you're selling. So they're kind of like 5 little points in terms of choosing the product first that I would use, and then stack it with these 4 leverage points, and I think you're golden.
Nice. Yeah. So when you looked at the red light therapy, because it's a very trending kind of like product at the moment. I've seen it kind of like growing. I've seen a lot of kind of brands building it. There's a company, and maybe with this conversation, it's prompted me. I've been looking at buying one of those big full length kind of body panels, and I'm like, maybe after this I'll go and actually buy it. But I've seen it becoming more and more and more trendy. So it's like clearly it's working, but then there's also like, if you look at it traditionally, like we went to China and we saw the suppliers and manufacturers, and they're spitting out these super generic models that theoretically they look the same as anyone else. You know what I mean? So when you got into that market, were you like, oh, this is going to be a challenge, or this is going to be like an issue to really compete? Because it seems like you really believed on the market to spend like 2 years on product development. So what was the thinking behind being like, I'm going to really bet big on this and go into 2 years of product development?
I mean, there wasn't much thinking besides that I was going to be better than everyone else. You know what I mean? Like, you have some certain belief. I have a track record. I'm like, if people are going to make money from it, I can make money from it because I have a track record that I've done this before. Got it. But ultimately, I do understand certain fundamentals, and I learned through other businesses. Like, I had a brand called Skywalkers in Australia, where it was a fad. Everyone's come out with it. But I know I differentiated the product where I had unique products and everyone else had the same shit from China. Right. Then I was able to demand a higher price because I was the most expensive in the market because I looked different to everyone else's. Yeah. And then that gave me a competitive advantage. I had more margins to play with. It allowed me to market, spend more marketing dollars, etc. So I knew if that situation came up, I'd be in the same scenario. And that's where developing a brand and having this differentiator is a great leverage point as well. Yeah. So our mask is, a lot more than a white label one off the shelf. Of course. And that's what also helps. So I'm never really worried about those scenarios as long as I can create the product different. If I went and slapped a Qure logo on an OEM product, then I'd be slightly concerned. Of course.
I think that was a key point. Like when they opened the box, what I mean, in terms of the mark, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, this is a completely different thing.
Yeah, if you see version 2, you'll be...
You know what I mean? It's like, you can't even compare the
Yeah.
two. Like all of the contouring, the lights, the app, the whole experience.
Yeah.
I was like, and then the 3 minute, I think it's like a 3
Yeah,
minute
3
timer
minutes.
or something.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, very, very impressive. Like
Yeah.
you can see why you would pay $500 or something for the product as
Yeah.
opposed to whatever the traditional kind of model is, like
Yeah.
an OEM situation.
Yeah, and Christina's gone nuts on the new packaging. If you see that, we'll send it to you.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's costing me a lot more. There's some battles we always have, you know. I mean, 'cause she's just like wants to make the best thing ever,
Of course.
but she doesn't think about the unit economics. Maybe she shouldn't, you know.
Yeah, true.
And
So she's like hard on product.
yeah, she's hard on product. Yeah,
Got
she's
it.
hard.
And what's your kind of like roles in terms of how do you share the responsibilities?
Yeah,
Punch on?
it's like, Matt, here's a product, go sell it. It's not that binary, but yeah, she's a lot more on the defense side of things.
Right.
You know, she's doing a lot
That's
more.
what females do well.
Yeah, brand and product.
Got it.
And then I'm more on the offense, trying to work out how to sell these products. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Have you guys had some heated discussions over the years?
Yeah, like we have a fantastic strategy in play. When we get the shits at each other,
Yeah.
we block each other on WhatsApp,
Nice.
and then we don't talk for a couple of days.
Silent treatment.
Yeah. It's slightly awkward when we live in the same house when we block on WhatsApp, but like there's no other way to do it. You know, I think that if anyone's worked with one of the siblings, depending, like especially when you're two different people, you know,
Yeah.
and things happen where we have different views on how to run business as well. She's super passionate. And she's super on brand when I just care about the sales. So I'll do like a post-it note ad or something like that. She's, mate, what the fuck's that? It's not on brand.
Right.
You know what I mean?
She's fighting you. Yeah.
But I'm like, look in the account, it's scaling, or look in the account, look at the ROAS. You know, she's like, I don't give a shit. I'd rather lose sales than have that against my brand. Which
Right.
maybe she has a valid point.
Yeah.
You know, if you try and build a brand for a long time, let's try and
True.
keep some integrity. But I'm just worried about how to keep the lights on and how to pay the bills. You know. So
But I think that friction's really healthy.
Yeah, it is, 100%.
There's a concept that we're pushing into our company at the moment, radical candor. Kim
Okay.
Scott talks about it, very similar in terms of like, especially like in leadership type positions, it's super healthy to have that friction.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? If there's like the leader, and this is what you were talking about earlier, in terms of the leader has his opinion or her opinion, and everyone else just says, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's like so many of those people might have opinions that are really valid and valuable, and the company might have issues and problems that might, you know, cost the company a lot more than, hey, this is a problem, let's have a debate about it, and
Yeah.
then let's actually solve it in a much better way. So,
Yeah, I totally agree.
yeah, interesting. In terms of I'm curious about this, like assuming that a founder has gone through these like 4 stages of leverage,
Yep.
do you think that any founder kind of has the potential, the ceiling, the capacity to get to like $1 million a day kind of like level from like internal system, or what are some things that you think might get in the way of that?
You mean in terms of like the internal belief systems that might be
Yeah.
holding them back?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think because even sometimes founders build a business they hate to operate and hate to be in. So by definition, they don't want to grow the business because it means doing more of the work they don't want to do.
Right.
And this is what I see a lot of the time happening.
Right.
So a lot of things, they're limiting themselves, and subconsciously they are self-sabotaging themselves from the success because they don't want the success because they're doing more of the same shit they don't want to do.
Interesting.
So most definitely, a lot of the times, a lot of people, the thing that's stopping them back is their internal belief systems. And until they unlock them, then they can actually scale. Like I know some people that I've spoken to and worked with, they'll stuck at like maybe even like $5 million a year. And it was because of that reason. Maybe they didn't enjoy the business, or because they didn't have to build the team out.
Right.
And then them taking on more work means that they had to do more work themselves, which add more stress to their life. And until they built the team and started enjoying the business, then the business went to 8 figures and beyond, like overnight. So I think there's a lot of things that are actually holding people back. It's just understanding what they are.
What would you say some of the sacrifices have been for you? Because I feel like I'm like listening to, I feel like you have such a relaxed and poised approach in terms of the way you look at the situation. You have this observation of things, and it seems like very calm and calculated almost.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm curious to know maybe some of the things that you've had to like let go of or sacrifice, whether like physically or from a belief system perspective over the years that have helped to kind of get you here now.
I think it's understanding that we're playing a spiritual game.
Yeah, right.
And everything is there for us to learn. And every time something happens now, I pause and I just say, thank you, what a pleasure. Why is this in my movie? What is it trying to teach me?
Right.
And also, I think I built so many reference points of like horrible situations in my life that have happened. Like I had a national recall with Big W.
Oh, wow.
I
As in
lost
all the product.
all the products had to come back. I
Wow.
lost $5 million overnight when Dick Smith went bankrupt. Like I've had all these like, shocking moments in my life that
Right.
I learned so much and I grew so much through. And
Yeah.
and I understood that life is all about perspective. You can't control what you look at. You can always control what you see. And it's how you interpret the information in front of you that keeps you going. Like when I lost that $5 million overnight, I was lucky I had like this understanding of psychology and reality creation, because I was walking through the park. I was like, fucking depressed. I was almost in tears. Like, I was building a business for 7 years. Import wholesale, you're constantly reinvesting. I was paying myself $4,000 a month. You don't see any of the money.
Right.
And then I was like, I can't have this victim mentality. I can't have this victim mentality go on, because I'm not going to get myself out of that, because I understand that my inner world creates my outer world.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, like, why did this happen? Why is this in my movie? What other founders have had massive setbacks? And I started reverse engineering all these founders that lost, went bankrupt, or Donald Trump, whoever it might be. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad this happened now. I'm so glad it happened at age 25, not when I'm old and had kids. Like, now I'm actually going to be successful. This needed to happen in my life. This is like the story that I needed in order for me to be successful moving forward. And I'm so grateful it happened at 25, not 35.
True.
And then I just pushed me forward. And I was sweet for within an hour. Right. So I learned so much to control my mind and the stories that my mind created. And that would get me through any situation. So then no matter what happens, I just understand, what am I going to learn from this situation? How am I going to be better? And it'll work itself out. But it's all a spiritual game to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what drives you? Like, what's the, like, we discussed earlier, like the lack, in terms of most people start from a place of lack, and maybe they want to prove their dad wrong, or prove somebody in their family that, like, I can do it, trust me, like, believe in me. So what's the driver for you at the moment in terms of what's pushing you to build this company that you're building at the moment?
To be honest, I always felt that I need to do something big so then I can help other people.
Right.
I need that source of recognition, so
there's conflicting belief, you got to hear again.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of a drive for me. And then also, I think when the family comes and the kids come, I want to be a good example and role model to them. Right. And that's what drives me forward more than anything, to be honest. Those
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what are the plans with the Qure Skincare company? Like, what do you guys want to do with that company?
You know, obviously the goal is to have a 9-figure brand, just because, you know, it's great. It sounds great. Yeah. But I guess, you know, it's just like, because business is a game and it's a sport. So I'm more interested in the person that I need to be to have a $100 million company, and the things I need to learn along the way, to be honest, than having that 9-figure brand. And then for us, it's just about product development. Because I think a lot of people get stuck in terms of what business they're actually in. A lot of people sell a commodity product, they're not outsource certain marketing activities, but all you are is a sales marketing company. Yeah. Right. Where for us, I'm like, I want to be a product development company. I want to create and innovate the most amazing skincare devices the world hasn't seen. So I want to transition to make sure a lot of our resources are going to product development, and not so much trying to play the marketing game.
Back on that knife edge and just pushing more back into...
Yeah, right. And I want to be known for that. Like, I went to China last week, whatever, to set up our own factory potentially. Oh, wow. So that's a huge move. Like, I've had an office in China for 12 years, so it's not as hard for us as it would be someone else. Sure. But that's like kind of the play I'm looking at. I'm like, how can we vertically integrate everything? Yeah. And just like be professional product development company.
So let's just talk about that for a second. So what does it mean from your perspective, product development company versus sales and marketing company?
So product development company is essentially, our company hinges on our ability to develop products, right? That's where our juice is. That's where our DNA is. That's where everything stems from that. Not like, we're a sales and marketing company. That's where all our resources should go into try and sell as much product in terms of direct response advertising and everything else. And I think there's a lot of good examples. You know, like, for example, when Dyson came out, that product was so good. You didn't have to be an amazing sales and marketing person. You know what I mean? You look at brands like the Oodie that blew up. Yeah. You know, that product was so amazing that no matter what marketing you did, it was going to go nuts. So I want to get to the stage where the product does all the marketing for us. Yeah. Where the product is so exceptional that we don't have to be as good at marketers. You know what I mean?
I love, I think Elon Musk's position on this is like, he talks about like that fight that he had, I think, with his brother, I believe it was, when they were building the solar company, and the solar company had like hundreds of salespeople pushing these solar panels and having to sell all the solar product. And he's like, I despise this. You know what I mean? I've never had to have a marketing function or a sales function. There you go. Yeah. I built just exceptional products that changed the whole fucking game. Yeah. And the whole entire market's like, you've got my attention. Yeah. You know, so that's a really good example. Yeah. And then so versus like a marketing sales, it's literally like all the resources are into creating content, direct response advertising. Yeah, all
that kind of stuff, you know. Right. And I think a lot of e-com brands today are sales and marketing companies. They choose a commodity product and they go out and sell it. And I think that's the biggest problem. And
so, like, from an operational perspective, what does that do? Because like I've experienced it, and like from your perspective. So if I'm sitting there and I'm like all marketing and sales, how am I feeling as a founder? Versus like if I'm able to actually transition into this product focused company, because I think you as a founder would feel quite different. You know what I mean? If you're like building product versus like sitting there and just like hamster wheeling marketing and sales.
100%. Like, it's just so rewarding when you develop something unique and fresh to the market. You know, I think sales and marketing is just like a treadmill that just just like you can never get off, and
it just gets faster.
It gets faster and faster, and it gets harder and harder. Like, you know, CAC's going up, fucking CPMs are going up. It's like, Jesus, like what new creative angle do I have to work out to make sure this product can stand out? And it's just like, it's exhausting, I think, you know. On
that point, real quick, so there's this thing, and this is very, very common amongst a lot of the members in my community, and what you mentioned there. So it's like, CPMs are going up, you know, content's getting burnt out quicker and quicker, competitors are getting more and more fierce. How is it for you now? Like, are you still having all of the same problems at this level company as you were, for example, at like the startup phase, in terms of being like, we're testing new creatives, we're trialing new things, we're testing different campaigns, like, talk to me about that a little bit in terms of like that process.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Yeah,
if not more so.
Right.
You know, because that now we pump it more creative. We have to make more money to pay for the team and the growth and everything else. So before we can get away with launching a couple creatives a week and we're good. And I think we're in a unique position that we put ourselves in, maybe too early, is where we have multiple product categories.
Right.
So like we have like 4 separate businesses within our business, where other people just
focus
on.
Back again.
Yeah, that's right. Somehow I still brought it back.
I'm gonna do one. No. Let's bring some more complexity in.
Yeah, and then it's like, so we got LED. People just do LED. Now we have like microneedling home. People just do microneedling. We have water filters. People just do water filters.
Oh, so you have water filters as well?
Yeah, we just like engineered, like we have a patented water filter actually for the faucet. That's like ridiculous.
Got it.
Christina killed it.
Got it.
And then we're going to hair growth soon as well. And then we're going to radio frequency. Like, it just doesn't stop.
Hair growth is a big market. I always look at that, and I always use that as like an example of. I feel like you've spoken about this or something, but where you don't need to educate the market, and you look at like hair growth, and it's like I've got a hair transplant, and when my hair was receding, you wouldn't need to tell me that I have a problem. I'm like looking at it every day, and I'm like, this is a problem.
Yeah, it looks great now.
Thank you. I would hope so. But it's like that, you know what I mean? It's like a market that doesn't need education, so people can be like, oh, god damn, I need to fix that problem.
Yeah.
You know, interesting. Yeah, I like that a lot. What would you say some of the skills would have been at different stages? And I guess you've got an interesting perspective because you've been across so many different companies across the years. But if you were to say maybe a handful of like skill sets or areas you've been like, dude, without this, I wouldn't be here. Are there a handful of like skills in the toolbox you think really help?
I think today the fundamental skill set anyone needs in e-com is creative strategy. I think that's the most important one by far, because sales solves all problems.
It does,
right? And media buying is redundant almost. I've got a media buying agency. I'm saying this. We do.
Come on, man.
No, we do great. If any clients listening, we do great work, but it's like
click the link below.
But it's incremental. You know what I mean? It's not going to move the needle. We'll get you probably 10% more efficient, 20% more efficient, but the creative is where like it's going to blow your brand up.
Got it.
So I think go all in on creative strategy.
What is that like? If you were to break down creative strategy, what does that look like?
I mean, just like make sure you're creating specific avatars.
Yeah.
And, you know, going different markets of awareness, and then also having different angles and pain problems you're solving. Like that whole kind of ecosystem in terms of how you're going to create creative that's going to speak to a certain person, solve a certain problem. Like that whole framework needs to be kind of sorted out for you internally. And I think a lot of brands should also go organic first, especially when they're starting out, and use that as their testing ground for content.
Interesting. As in just push organic content onto socials and see what works.
If I had no money tomorrow, I would just go organic first. And I think you can easily get to 100K a month doing organic first content.
Really?
100%.
Just TikTok or what?
TikTok, Instagram, yeah.
And just
pump out a couple reels a day. Yeah.
Wow.
100%.
Wow. Is that what you would do if you what would you do if you had all of the knowledge and experience and maybe some money?
Yeah.
And then you just didn't have all the business obligations. Like, what would you do some different plays than you're currently doing? If you were to start scratch, experience, maybe say, I don't know, $100,000, what would you do?
I mean, that's probably what I would do. I would go find some brand that would kind of using that framework that I used, and I would go organic first. And then once we got organic first, then I would start looking at maybe incorporating those 4 leverage points once I got proof of concept. But I would try and develop a strong enough brand story where I'm able to look at it from a content first perspective.
Yeah, right.
Like, how can I create content for this product? Because like you look at even like High Smile, the reason why they're crushing it because their product is very filmable, very they can like they just sticks out. You know what I mean? And they can create this hyper dopamine content with their product, and that's why they've been able to win. And some products are just amazing for content, and some aren't. Yeah. And your product isn't, you know, content worthy, then I think it's hard to stand out today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's interesting because I find that a lot of founders it's like content's the enemy almost, and it's like, oh, I've got to create content. Oh, like really,
Yeah.
do I need to create some more ads? Oh my God, like the ads,
Yeah.
it's burnt out, it's fatigued. I've got to get out there and shoot. And it's like, do you want to make more money in
Yeah,
your business?
exactly,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like, is there an alternative at the moment?
But on that, like, and if I had only 100 grand, whatever, I
Yeah.
would be documenting the whole process of the business, founder-led content from
Right.
start to finish, telling everyone the story, and that's how I'd build a brand.
You're doing this a little bit with your personal brand. I've looked at it.
Starting to now, yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah,
You're doing a
get
good
in,
job.
thank you.
Yeah, it's good.
We'll get
so,
there.
So yeah, we'll get there. Always unfinished project.
Yeah.
So you would say that a new founder would get a lot of benefit from doing that? As in
Yeah.
like, hey, like here I am. This is my first sample. Hey, I'm testing this.
Yeah.
Like that whole document, the whole
100%.
journey. Interesting.
Like one of our clients on the agency side is a company called Midday Squares in the
Okay.
US. I don't know if you heard about them.
No, I haven't,
They're
no.
blowing up. They're a chocolate company.
Okay.
And literally there's like 3 founders. And the reason they blew up, they're in Walmart or whatever, the Costco,
Okay.
whatever it is,
Yep.
all founder-led content. Talking about the manufacture
wow.
process, all the hiccups, the problems.
Wow.
And they blew up literally because of their content. And the founder was explaining to me, he's like, a lot of people don't have the guts to start their own business, but people love being on the journey with you, and they feel like it's their company because they're seeing you
So
from day
true,
one,
so
and they
true.
buy into your products. They feel like they're supporting you, and they feel like it's their company in a weird way as well.
Yeah.
because they've seen you from day one. And
From day one, have all the mistakes.
yeah,
and, go through all
and they're
the,
like
fumbling
living
on camera.
vicariously
Yeah,
through you. So it's
true.
very interesting, you know. And there's another chick I saw that had some running company as well. Did the same thing.
I've seen my wife always shows me this company. I think they have like a lip gloss thing.
Okay.
And there's this one, I think she's in the US or something, and she's amazing at it. And she's like filmed it from her small room in the house,
Yep.
and then they've moved into the next house, and she's paying her parents, and she shows how much she pays the parents, and like the socials. It's insane. Like wow.
And also, I know another friend of mine, Isaac. He built Mini Katana. Have you heard of him?
I feel like I have
So
heard of that.
He built this he started off selling an envelope opener, but like samurai sword
Nice.
online, and then he started
Nice.
getting bigger samurai swords. He was doing 20 mil a year, organic content only, no paid,
Wow.
because you can't.
True, you can't even get
swords,
any of that online.
So he took that concept and his whole content engine, and he started a candy company, and within the first year, it fucking blew up. He's in like Target and everything else, organic first, no paid ads.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of good ways to learn content, right? Just keep posting stuff and let the algorithm, be the judge of what's good, what's not. So yeah,
And it's also like when you're starting, it's like you have time.
yeah, exactly.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And
That's,
so
that's
it's
the
like-
resource you have. Exactly.
But you're
right.
sitting there and you're saying like, oh, I don't want to post content. It takes too long. I'm like, well, you're going to watch Netflix instead.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
use some of that time that you have over here. Yeah, interesting.
And there's a huge personal development, I think pipeline that happens when you create content. You start to create content. Like, how much did you learn about yourself? How much better are you at communicating or from creating content? You know what I mean?
My wife went through my Facebook, I think it was like last week, 2 weeks ago, and she started like pulling up all of these old videos of me like speaking face to cam and like what I used, and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't watch that.
Yeah,
Get rid of
crazy,
it. Get it
right?
out of me. I
Yeah,
can't see that thing. It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's
Yeah.
it's so difficult. Yeah, interesting. And so in terms of the skills, so you mentioned like the content strategy. That's probably one key thing.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that you think are like really important in today's day and age for founders?
To be honest, no.
crush it?
Like I would spend literally
Wow.
90% of my time on creative strategy.
Wow.
If I was starting again.
Wow.
And like in terms of the business, and then also on my mindset, obviously, like we just
Yeah.
discussed before, because I still believe business is 90% mindset, 10% skill. But
Interesting.
like when you really think about it, if you have run through the theory of constraints, right?
Yeah.
If you familiar with that concept,
Yeah.
then that is your biggest constraint is creative in terms of sales. Like what else is there? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I always have this model of thinking where it's just like when you have an ad or a piece of creative that generates like say a 9x or a 10x ROAS, it's like every day that you don't have that, you're losing X amount
Yeah,
of
I love that.
cash.
I love that
You know what I
frame.
mean? And so you flip that around
Yeah.
and you're like, why am I accepting 3x?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
am I accepting 4x when I could have that?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I want to talk a little bit about mentors and people that have had like influence on you, because it's really impressive to listen to like your transformation, the things you've been through, and also like the shifts in your mindset. Like, have there been people in your environment or mentors that have kind of helped to, move you along quicker or shift your perspective or have different kind of levels of like think applied to you?
Oh, 1000%. Like I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for coaches. I spent over $500,000 easy on coaches probably the last 3-4 years.
Right.
And this year I'm spending at least 120-30 grand on coaches.
Right. How do you go, I want to coach for X? Like, how do you think about, what are you
I just find
solving
someone
for?
that's 2 steps ahead of me in terms of
Yeah.
what I'm looking to do. It's very simple. And I make sure it's hyper specialized. Like I don't get like a generic life coach. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like if I need to improve my mindset in terms of discipline, who's the most disciplined coach that I can get? And we spoke about Wes Watson. You know what I mean? If I'm going to want to get my ecom brand to $100 million, I need to find someone who's done $100 million brand.
Right.
And it's simple as that for me.
Got it.
But also there's a step further. It's like you have to look at the person and look at all the different data points on how they did that. Because there's no point of me, let's say you're a fitness trainer and you want to get shredded and get jacked.
Sure.
But then the guy's on juice. He's using heaps of steroids.
Right.
So then the stuff he's telling you, like, oh, you can eat anything you want, calories in, calories out. The food choice doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter to him because he's on steroids.
Right.
So even same with business. Like if you get a mentor, you want to look at their whole life. How do they look at business?
Yeah, true.
Their philosophy, are they working 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day? Then if that's how he got there, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Or I'm looking at someone who has a family, he's got a balanced life, and then, tries to build the people to build the business. Okay, I would rather do it that way. Do you know what I mean?
Got it.
So over the years, I've been a lot more careful in terms of who I choose based on looking at how many data points match in terms of the life that I actually want. And then that's the way I kind of choose them.
Interesting. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Have you found that sometimes exposing yourself to people that are too far along can be damaging in terms of like you mentioned, like 2 steps ahead? Is there a sweet spot that you found in terms of like, all right, I'm making $1 million annually. I'm going to go and learn from someone making 90 million annually. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's a great question. The only problem is that if you're $1 million annually, the guy's making 100 mil is going to charge you a lot for his time, which you can't afford. And that's the only real delta. I would rather speak to a $100 million person. But normally they charge way too much at that time. Got it. And there is something to be said that if the guy is going from 1 to 10 million, the person that's at $100 million probably did it when it was outdated tactics. Yeah. Like they did it 5 years ago, but what worked for him 5 years ago wouldn't work for the person today. So that's why it's probably still always better to go 1-2 steps ahead because it's more relevant.
Yeah, relevance. I think that's key. I think that's one thing that I've really noticed as well myself with the people that I've, similar to what I was mentioning around with Patrick, like 100 million, 200 million, that guy's, multi 9-figure. And so like I learned from him and it's like, it stretches my perspective so much. And I'm like, whoa, okay, like I can see, but then when I come back into like execution mode, it's like, okay, so how do I make that relevant? How do I apply that? You know what I mean? You're trying to distill the pieces down and actually make sense of it a little bit, if you get what I mean.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a bit hard sometimes. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. From a perspective of like failures, what are some of the biggest failures? You mentioned the $5 million overnight. Are there some other things that you went through that have been like super challenging?
I mean, like 3 or 4 years ago, I thought I had my $100 million idea and I launched a company called Football Supplements. Oh, yeah. I think I told you off camera. Yeah. So I invested like $2 million into it. I thought this was it. I don't need an MVP. Like,
so you went straight in on it?
Straight in. I'm doing this. I paid Atletico Madrid. I sponsored them. I got Barcelona players, Real Madrid players. I went like full in, custom nutrition plan on the website, paid a Mozza for the formulas, and it just wasn't product market fit. So I just didn't even listen to my own advice. But I was just so adamant, like this is the play.
How did you how did you have so much conviction that the idea was sound?
I think because I was a footballer and I struggled with nutrition and stuff like that. And if that was different for me, then I know I could have been professional potentially. Got it. So I was like passionate about it. I think I can help people in the same position as me. Right. And I own the domain footballsupplements.com. And no one in that space was doing any whitelisting, any dark posting. They don't do any brand deals in that place. The market's the biggest sport in the world. Everything was true. Influencers were cheap. Like everything was just like untouched. Do you know what I mean? It was just like no one's touched this whole market for good reason.
Yeah, for good, I was about to say.
But yeah, so
with the pioneer with the arrows in his back.
Yeah, exactly.
On that point, in terms of like when you're, I listened to a piece of content that you posted around like being very niche and specific when you like launch a product or bring a product to market. How important do you think that is in terms of like launching a product or bringing something to the market, being like specific around a particular avatar?
I think it's critical because you have very little resources and you can't deploy the marketing messages at scale to a lot of different avatars. And you need to connect with the avatars with the low resources you have in terms of the content you're producing. So your messaging is everything at that point. And unless you can speak to that person directly with that one message, then it's very hard for you to be efficient because your skill set's low as well and your resources are low. So you're shit at whatever you're doing, let's be honest. Yeah. So if you're taking 10 shots on goal in 10 different ways, you're gonna move slowly. Where if you're taking 10 shots on goal one way, you're gonna move a lot quicker and you're gonna get to the 100K a lot quicker or everything else. Right,
I see. Yeah. Any other mistakes or any other things that have come to mind in terms of failures? Obviously the Dick Smith situation and then the football situation.
Yeah, oh man, there's countless ones. I don't know, once like I had a brand called Sports Beats that I launched. In Dick Smith and Harvey Norman. Yeah. And then Beats started suing me for trademark infringement, even though they couldn't trademark Beats because it's a generic term. but you're still playing poker. Like, it's like,
Right.
well, we're going to call, we're spending 100 grand. Let's see if you're going to come, you know what I mean? And then Apple bought Beats, and then Apple was suing me. So then I had to rebrand and everything else. So like stuff like if you're trying to build a global brand, like stuff like trademark is critical, because you can go spend 5 years building a brand, and then all of a sudden you can't go into the US or you can't go into Europe, and then you have to rebrand, and then, you know, all that hard work is kind of undone. So making sure you have, your trademarks in check and creating a unique name, I think is very important.
Looping back to it for a second, because even like thinking about this and also going through multiple different like challenges personally, and listening to a lot of the founders that listen to this podcast, it's like these things happen all the time.
Yeah.
The lawsuit, losing whatever it is, like you're always going to be exposed to problems. And so I think the importance or the reliance on like the process of how you actually like handle those things, like the mindset side of things, how your belief systems kind of like shape what you do, because like something like that happens. I remember so many bad things, like massive like refunds or disputes or things that I've experienced. And if you go into that panic mode, you sacrifice the future of your business. So can you talk to that a little bit in a little bit more detail around like how do you like navigate that process? Say you've just been thrown like a lawsuit, you've just received a legal letter, like how do you break that down and go like, okay, cool? Because initially you're probably like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah, at the
like
time.
that's always the response, right?
Especially at the time, like because I just got all this product into the mass retailers. Do you know what I mean? I just launched these brands in there, and now I have to go tell them I'm getting sued, and they have to take it out of their stores. Like they'll kill the relationship. They'll tell you to get fucked, and I'll find another supplier.
Yeah.
But once again, it's just like, pause. What a pleasure. Why is this in my movie? What do I have to learn from this?
Well, what's the movie? Talk to me about that.
So
that's
like,
interesting.
this is such a spiritual journey. Everything that happens, it's happened for a reason in our movie to learn something.
So movies like my experience,
my experience,
life. Got it.
And until you learn the lesson, it will keep showing up in different ways. And it'll keep showing up in different ways. Do you know what I mean? Disguised as a different problem, but it's the same problem.
Yeah.
And for a lot of
times, I feel like it increases in pain as well.
And like for that trademark thing, like the lesson was I wasn't very detail orientated. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
And then if it didn't show up then, I didn't learn the lesson then. Then I had power banks that weren't properly certified of QA. Then I got a national recall. And that lesson had to come up multiple times in my life for me to actually understand, all right, you know, something kind of has to change. I need to level up so this problem doesn't happen again.
Yeah, wow.
But that's all it is, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn from the situation, then you're not growing as well.
Yeah.
And just convincing yourself that this is all part of your story.
Yeah.
And that you're okay with it.
Have you thought about quitting? Have you thought about throwing it in? Like
No, I couldn't. No way.
Why?
I mean, probably because my mum said to me, maybe you should get a job. So I was like, you know what?
Go and be a barista.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no chance I'll allow you to be right. I mean, I love the game too much in a sense, you know. And what else would you do, really?
Yeah.
You know?
I always have this little like ism that I play in my head whenever I kind of like have a bad day, bad week, and I'm like, it's like, what's your alternative?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, are you going to go back and get a job, or are you going to? And then the other thing, I don't know if you know Tom Bilyeu. I don't know if you heard it.
Sure.
Years ago, he said something to me, which not to me through his podcast, which was to me, was just like, you know, no one's got a gun to your head.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like it, just fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, just pack up and just stop doing it, because no one's forcing you to do what you do. So I thought that was very interesting.
But in reality, you probably say you'll face the same problems working for someone else you do yourself.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
I see people stressed out more about their jobs than I do losing $5 million in reality. Because at least I know I'm in control.
Yeah, so true.
To a certain degree, you know?
To a certain degree, yeah. I feel like I'm in control. What do you think some of the things are that keep new founders like from actually achieving like the potential that they could with their businesses? Like they're starting out and they just like, they stagnate at like 50K a month, 100K a month, and they don't kind of like break through, assuming they have like, you know, good overall unit economics and things are pretty sound in the business.
I think it's just the art of prioritization. They're just focusing on the wrong things.
Right.
It's plain and simple. If they're focusing on the constraints in the business that's going to unlock growth.
So let's just explain that, if you can, the theory of constraints somewhat, just so people.
Yeah, so theory of constraints, there's a book called Goal. Jeff Bezos recommends it. One of 3 books to his whole leadership team. Essentially, the person who wrote the book took over his family's manufacturing business, and he understood that there's always like one constraint that was stopping him from actually maximum output. So that was kind of the theory of constraints was born. So in your business, there's always one constraint that's a bottleneck for you unlocking growth. But the biggest problem is people are mostly aware of these bottlenecks, but they don't employ the resources to solving it. And like I did a consult for a brand the other day. They're doing about $120 million. And I went through the whole theory of constraints. Like, yeah, we know that's a problem. I go, well, show me your calendar and show me the resources.
Time?
That time and money, are you deploying to solve that problem? Oh, none. And that's the game we're playing. How do you stay disciplined enough to deploy your time and money resources into solving that one problem and ignoring everything else? And Elon Musk that's all he does. All he does is goes through constraints, all these companies, picks the top one, writes a whole list, picks the top one, and goes and solves it himself, and is relentless about it. I've read interviews or heard interviews. That's all he does, and that's what makes him so special. He gets in the ground and solves that one problem for the company. So a lot of times these businesses are just focusing on the wrong things. They don't have the discipline to actually time and energy on focusing on that one constraint. If they did, then they wouldn't be where they were.
Yeah. What would you say some of that, like if you were to break it down into like, you're probably focusing on this and you should be focusing on that?
So for example, if you're just starting out, what is the most important thing? Customer acquisition. They're probably spending time on doing all these email flows, email marketing.
So true.
You know what I mean? They're probably focusing on, I don't know, let's try and
redesign my landing page.
Yeah, redesign my landing page. Do you know what I mean? Doing 15 split tests on a footer or a button color or all this stuff that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
When if they had a hard hitting creative, it doesn't matter what landing page they're going to. It doesn't matter what email sequence you have. You are going to scale.
Yeah. I love the email thing because I feel like I see that all the time, and I'm like my philosophy is like until you're making like, geez, above like 50K, 100K, it's like you almost don't even need to worry about those damn flows. It's just like focus
set
on the
something
front
up and just set and go. So and we're in an attention economy. Like it is what it is. So that's why like if they found to spend 90% of his time on creating content, that'd be the most leveraged move they could make, I think. Yeah. Personally.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you feel like really passionate about that you would want to share more of, like during this conversation, that you feel like people need to know about, like your experience, things that you've done?
I would just encourage everyone to literally go to ChatGPT and ask them, please help me dissect my limiting and competing beliefs.
Yeah.
And have a conversation with chat. And you'll start uncovering, when it starts asking questions maybe about your childhood or your previous experiences, what your beliefs about what you can and cannot do, you'll uncover a lot of the reasons why you're not showing up in the world the way you want.
Yeah. And so you find that once you have a little bit of that information about some of the things that might be blocking you, you can action it a lot easier with a lot more accuracy in terms of make changes.
1,000,000%, yeah. Because you bring a spotlight of awareness to it, and then you can act on it. A lot of these things are just like subconscious programming that's literally running our lives. And until we can like be conscious of our unconscious thoughts, then we can start taking control back. And the moment we can actually admit to ourselves that we are the creators of our own reality, then we can take control back. That's the first meta belief you kind of have to have.
Sure.
Because like, what is stopping someone who thinking they can do it or think they can't do it? They're both right.
So true. So true. Yeah. What's the future hold for Matt? What are you excited about for the future?
Yeah, I'm excited for Qure to see what we do moving forward and focusing on one brand for once in my life.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah. And yeah, like I love coaching. I love helping people. And I think, ideally I'd love to transition out of Qure one day and just help people at some scale, whether it's around their mindset, business. I'm not sure even what I want to help them about. Right. I love ecom, but I don't know if I love ecom that much to talk about ecom nonstop.
Sure. You seem very passionate about the mindset.
Yeah,
stuff.
That's stuff I'm passionate about. Like I don't think I could speak about ecom all day, CPAs and CTRs and all that stuff. I think I'm done. But yeah, I think the mindset side and personal development side and I think one thing I'd love to leave everyone with is that go pro. Go pro. Like take yourself seriously like an athlete. Look at your nutrition, your training, your new mindset, and you'll be so surprised about how much clarity you have and how much easier life will be in terms of business when you do go pro. Because it's not about the how, it's about the who. Yeah. And the business is only going to grow to the extent that you grow. Yeah. So focus on yourself first, and I think everything else is pretty easy.
Are there a couple of like things like Matt's secret routine that nobody knows about that's written in some tablet somewhere?
But like I do like something like 4D non-negotiables, right? Okay. So it's like training, nutrition is two of them, and then daily reflection is another one, right? And then
it's journaling or something.
Journaling, yeah. And then the mind, just filling my mind with new beliefs or philosophies, because we're all belief collectors, whether we realize it or not. So try and collect beliefs that in alignment with the life that you desire from other people. Interesting. Just look at how they're looking at the world. Like,
and so how do you collect a belief?
Just by understanding what their belief is. Like a simple one would be Richard Branson has EAs that filter his whole life, right? Filters all information.
But then skiing with him and everything.
I mean, and then you see someone else that has a $10 million business. I can't have an EA. I can't have them read my inbox, but then Richard Branson can.
I'm so worried about my privacy.
Do you know what I mean?
Small business.
Exactly right. So it's just a different belief, a different way of viewing the world. So now he can do more because he's freed up to do whatever, or live a better quality life, or whatever. So it's like, what are the top people? What are their beliefs like, and how can I instill them into my life? Because that's all I'm doing. I speak to someone who's worth 100 million, think, okay, what do you believe to be true? What's not? How do you run your life? Blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm just trying to work out.
And it's so interesting because the moment that you actually make that shift and you have someone in your inbox or you have someone doing the thing that you were petrified about, you're like, oh, okay.
And what happens? New belief system
Oh,
creates,
okay,
right?
well, that was nothing.
That was easy.
Why was I even worried about that thing? Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see what the future holds for you, man. I feel like this is
Thanks, buddy.
I feel like this is like the starting point. Like I'm listening to what you've done and with the things you've been through, and also like the shift that you've got in towards the future and the things that you're passionate about. And I'm like,
I appreciate that.
You got so much value to give, and you got so much like energy for life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's really, really, really like prominent in the conversation. So I appreciate you and I appreciate the work you're going to do for the world. So
I appreciate you having me. That was great.
Epic.
Thanks, bro.